99.5 FM. Guess what? A majority of House Democrats now support beginning the impeachment process into Donald Trump. Is that going to move Pelosi to do it? We'll see. Coming up on our show today, Dean Baker. He's a senior economist and co-founder of the Center for Economic and Policy Research. Is going to talk about those Fed rate cuts and all these numbers and all this BS spin we're going to be reading about in the next few days. And also, Brooklyn-based journalist Aaron Short joins us to talk about The Method to the Madness book. Donald Trump's ascent as told by those who were hired, fired, inspired, and inaugurated with him. A book with no anonymous sources. This is going to be a good day. Stay with us. Good morning, New York and New Jersey and Connecticut, Long Island and Pennsylvania. I know we have some listeners in Pennsylvania getting our signal coming from Manhattan. We are coming to you with our voices from Brooklyn, New York. I'm so happy to be here today. TGIF also. It's 76 degrees here in the listening area, going up to 85 degrees, partly cloudy. We're not looking at, it's a nice day today here in the tri-state area. Saturday, we're looking for a little bit of rain, 84 degrees, and Sunday should be partly cloudy and 89 degrees. That's going to be the hottest day in the next couple of days coming up. We're sticking in the mid-80s. What a blessing that is for this area. I think last year around this time we were at, 1,700 degrees with 100% humidity. It was rough. It was rough. Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. My co-host King is not here with me today, so it's just me flying solo with you here on WBAI. We've got a number of things happening today that I need to tell you about right up front. A majority of House Democrats are, they've gone over the line. They're supporting impeachment. So now Pelosi, are we going to push her over the line? We'll see. It was a gradual trickle of Democrats, and now it's a landslide. Anyway, this inquiry, if it should happen, would spur an investigation by the Judiciary Committee, which would determine if there's enough evidence to draft articles of impeachment. I don't know. What do we think? What do the callers think? You can call in and tell me, 212-209-2877. Should we do it? Should we not do it? I know it's early in the morning to be talking about impeachment, but here we are. We could talk about that today. Also, I wanted to play you this clip, this final clip, if in case you haven't heard it. It has to do with our Mayor de Blasio when he was going into the debate that happened the other day. He had protesters, people. Protesters talking to him about what's he going to do about Eric Garner's murderer, Daniel Pantaleo. Is he going to hold him accountable? And this is what de Blasio said.
Let me tell you, I know the Garner family. They've gone through extraordinary pain. They are waiting for justice, and they're going to get justice. There's finally going to be justice. I have confidence in that. In the next 30 days in New York. You know why? Because for the first time, we are not waiting on the federal Justice Department, which told the city of New York that we could not proceed because the Justice Department was pursuing their prosecution. And years went by, and a lot of pain accrued. And in the meantime, what I'm working on is making sure, and I have for 5 years, there will never be another tragedy. There will never be another Eric Garner because we're changing fundamentally how we police.
30 days, he said. Something's going to happen in 30 days. What is that going to be? Do you think they're going to fire him? I think we should hold the feet to the fire. 30 days has already passed by 2. So that means it's 28 days until something happens. Let's keep some pressure on de Blasio. By the way, my daughter was watching the show yesterday via our live stream on YouTube. And she asked my husband, what's Blasio? She's 3 years old. What's Blasio? He said, a very tall mayor. That's what we said. She also said the F word yesterday. I was cut off, as I would guess most of you listening in the listening audience were cut off yesterday, if you were driving at all, by some crazy person, probably from New Jersey. Not saying, just saying. A lot of Very difficult people driving around in New Jersey. Lots of aggressive drivers over there. A couple of them trickled in through the bridges and tunnels, and one of them made a U-turn right in front of me while I was going 30 miles an hour, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it is when a car U-turns right in front of you. And I yelled, "You effing moron!" And my daughter from the, it was a reflex. My daughter from the back seat yells, "You effing moron!" I was proud of her for taking my side. Not gonna lie. I guess there is a swearing phase when they're 3 years old. Anyway, you're listening to Waking Up. I'm Julianna Forlano. It's a beautiful day out, 74 degrees. I need to talk to you a little bit about some of our finances that are happening here on WBAI. We're in our fund drive, which I think everyone knows because we've been discussing it for weeks and you've been hearing it on other programs, etc. It's important what's going on. And this is where we're at with that. I have to give you an update, and I think it's very important. Well, I need to tell you how urgent this situation is. You've heard it probably before because we are listener-sponsored radio. So every couple of months, an urgency should arise. Now, sometimes it's more urgent than others, and this is August, and no one's here, and people are not, thinking about their fiscal donations, et cetera, in August. But, we did our last fund drive in May, and we would not have made it to October financially without doing a fund drive right now. So we are in fund drive. We basically really need your help. It's very urgent. We need to keep the transmitter station going. We need to keep the lights on, basically. And we're pretty much hand to mouth, and we should not be hand to mouth here at the most progressive channel in New York, the only independent channel in New York. We do not take money from fossil fuel. I'm sorry if you're listening out there, Koch brothers, but we can't take your money. Can we? I don't know. Not if it comes from a fossil fuel industry. You can anonymously send us a couple million, but I don't think you would ever do that. Anyway, this is an urgent situation. So if you're thinking about giving, or even if you haven't been thinking about giving, and you can make a donation today for WBAI to keep the lights on here, to keep the microphone running. We're quite serious about. But it's a weird thing because the listenership is going up. People understand this is the home of the resistance in all of its forms, not when MSNBC says the home of the resistance with a beautifully produced, package and a lovely ad that they put up that costs millions of dollars to make with a whole staff of editors, etc. And they say they're the resistance. No, the resistance doesn't come usually with money. The resistance comes from the ground up, and we are bringing you the voices of those people in the mornings that show and all across the board of the shows who are doing that on the ground resistance, and hopefully we are your resistance media, so we need your help to keep this coming. Our pledge line is 516-620-3602. 516-620-3602 is our pledge line. I'm asking you to become a WBAI buddy in the name of Waking Up. A buddy is someone who gives a recurring donation every month. It's kind of like, paying your New York Times subscription if you get that. If you want to be lied into another war, that's what you do. You pay for that. But some of it's good reporting. The problem is it's mixed in with some terrible reporting, and you need someone to parse it out for you, and hopefully we're doing that for you here on WBAI. A buddy is someone who is a sustaining member of this station, and that helps us. If we know that the money's coming in, even if it's $5, if it's $3, if it's $40 a month, whatever you feel the station's value is to you, if it's $100 a month, then you can just kind of like a Ron Popeil mixer boiler, you can set it and forget it, and then you are supporting this work. Remember what Tom Hartman said when we interviewed him at Netroots. He said, the right wing has they have been working on this for decades. They understand that taking over the media, taking over the airwaves is the way to take over people's brains. There are documentaries out there talking about how people who were once Democrats, I have some in my own family, watched a lot of Fox News, became addicted. There's a lot of addicting qualities to Fox News. We can talk about that at another time. To Fox News, and then they just started becoming further and further off to the right. But not only that, they became kind of crazy. They're out of touch with reality. WBAI helps you stay, let's hope, in touch with reality and in touch with your fellows who are doing the work here. So we really need your help. I'm making an impassioned plea. Any amount is good. 516-620-3602. I do have a gift for you. Alana, how much is what's the threshold for the book? I have a gift for you today. If you can donate at a certain level, that's not becoming a WBAI buddy. That's just your one-time donation. For $50, I have this amazing book, The Method to the Madness. And this is like an insider's view of Trump. I mean, this is amazing. I'm not gonna talk too much about it because we have the author on in the second half. But for a gift of $50 to WBAI, you will get this book, hardcover, The Method to the Madness. We'll talk about it in the second half. But even if you don't get a gift, or even if you just get like a T-shirt or a mug or the things that you can get when you go online and take a look at what might be good for you, we really need your support. 516-620-3602. 516-620-3602. Or you can go to give the number 2 WBAI.org. Give the number 2 WBAI.org. Thank you so much for the pledges that have been coming in, but we need more pledges. I do want to thank, I'm going to thank by name some of the pledges who've come in, if that is okay, maybe in the second half of the show or at the top of next week, because I want to make sure I have all the names and don't leave anybody out. But I do see them coming in from Long Island. I do see them coming in from Newark. I've seen some from Jersey City. I appreciate that a lot. If you're listening, especially if you're a regular caller, we do need your help. And every penny counts. It's August. No one else is here. So if you're listening, we really need your help. 516-620-3602. Give the number 2 WBAI.org. We're starting to sweat it because I think we're in the second week of the pledge drive, and we have not met our goals. We haven't met our goals for the show or this time slot, not necessarily the show, because they preempted us to put on some pitch shows so that we could make sure to get some cash in here, and the other shows have not made their quotas as far as I know either. So we really do need your help. And I'm asking you to go to the phone and do it now, 516-620-3602. And now, a song break, and be back with Dean Baker.
You don't believe in Harlem World, double up. We don't play around, it's a bet, lay it down. Cause didn't know me 91, bet they know me now. I'm the young Harlem with the Goldie sound. Can't no PD, hold me down, cooler. School me to the game, now I know my duty. Stay humble, stay low, blow like Hootie. True pimp, spin.
Deal that would lift the debt ceiling, and the Fed announced it will cut interest rates. We rely on the media to tell us what we need to know about how these developments will impact our day-to-day lives, but as we all know here on WBAI, the more mainstream outlets tend to give, let's say, misinformation, and more misinformation than anything else. Let's talk, and that's why basically we have our new regular guest, Dean Baker, here to help us parse out the facts of what's happening in the economy. Dean Baker is the co-founder of the Center for Economic and Policy Research. His areas of research include housing, macroeconomics, intellectual property, Social Security, Medicare, European labor market. I'm going to start with this question. How is the Washington Post misleading us this week when it comes to economics?
That's a good question.
I
You
see
were
the
talking
Times
about
is
the
all
Federal
over the
Reserve
place.
Board's
Yeah.
Federal Reserve Board's reduction in interest rates earlier this week. They had a piece on it. It was quite striking because it was obvious this is a news story, I should point out, not a column, so it's not supposed to be opinion. And they were basically implying that the Fed would be wrong to lower interest rates. And what was quite striking to me was two really big parts of the story that they left out. One is just the Fed has said, one could argue whether this is a good policy or not, but the Fed has said that they're targeting a 2% inflation rate. The inflation rate's been consistently below 2% ever since they set that target in 2012. If you want to have a higher inflation rate, one way you do it is you lower interest rates with the hope that it will lead to more growth, more jobs, and somewhat higher inflation. That didn't appear in the piece. The other part, which is the more important part...
Don't we have a lot of jobs right now? I mean, we're job
this is what I'm coming to in the second part, that when you have a tighter labor market, workers have more bargaining position and more bargaining power. And that's likely to lead to higher wage growth, which, of course, is an element in inflation. So if you want higher inflation, you should want to see higher wage growth. And what's really important, I think, for most of us is it's not just anyone who gets the jobs. When you start to get the unemployment rate low, and it is pretty low today, it is low by historical standards, the people who are most benefited are those at the bottom of the labor market, people who face discrimination, African Americans, Hispanics, disabled people, people with criminal records. Those are the people who are best able to get jobs as the labor market tightens. So it's a really, really big deal if we can make the labor market tighter. And the point that I and a lot of other progressive economists have been saying is, look, we have no problem with inflation. It's too low. Even the Fed wants the inflation rate to be higher. Why would you not lower interest rates, try to encourage the job growth, and hopefully get the unemployment rate down still further, giving people opportunities, and push the inflation rate somewhat higher? So that part of the story was totally lacking from the Washington Post, and again, news article, not an opinion piece.
Dean, can you talk about how inflation hits home? I mean, we've seen soaring gas prices. We've seen soaring grocery prices because of over the course of the last few years. What would inflation look like? We don't want to pay more out of our pockets.
Well, it's important to distinguish that when we look at the inflation rate, that's an overall average. That's for the whole country. There are big differences by region and by product. I mean, some prices, for example, gas prices, those go all over the place and have very, very little to do with what's going on in our economy, in the sense that our gas prices aren't really much affected by wages. They're affected by if the situation in the Middle East heats up more. Hopefully we won't see this, but if there actually were a war with Iran, well, gas prices will go up. So that's not really affected by wages here in the United States. That's not what's driving it. Housing, similar story. New York, of course, has seen, has very high rents, very high house prices. Again, that's not particularly affected by wages except very, very indirectly. So, when I'm saying higher inflation, currently the overall inflation rate's 1.5% by the gauge that the Fed looks at. So what we're talking about is something like 2.2, 2.3. That's not a situation where people suddenly can't afford their groceries. I mean, that would barely be noticeable to most of us. So I'm not suggesting we want to see our house prices go through the roof or anything. It's a very, very different story.
Dean, so don't the wealthiest also benefit from a rate cut, since the rate cuts push up stock prices and create these big gains for investors? It's shocking to me that something that benefits the wealthy could also benefit the more marginalized folks.
Well, it's a mixed story for the wealthy. It does benefit them in the sense that it generally leads to higher stock prices. The biggest effect on the economy is that it lowers mortgage interest rates. That has an effect both because it's easier for people to buy homes, but also you see people refinancing. So people who had a mortgage at, say, 4.5%, are able to refinance at 3.7, 3.6. I haven't checked the latest rate, something like that. It frees up a lot of money. They tend to spend that. So that's how it has the largest effect on the economy. But in terms of the wealthy, it is a mixed story for them because, as I was saying a moment ago, what we expect to see as you create more jobs, workers have more bargaining power. So in that sense, you hear the line, "Oh, it's so hard to get good help." Well, I want it to be hard to get good help. People should have a choice. It shouldn't be, some rich person could just say, "Hey, go mow my lawn for $5 an hour." No, if there's a good job market, then if they want someone to mow their lawn, they're going to have to pay them a decent wage. So it's a mixed story for the rich. They don't, they're obviously happy to see their stock prices go up, and generally lower interest rates mean higher stock prices, but they aren't happy to pay workers more money.
Now, I understand that the jobs report is coming out today at about 8:30, and I'm not sure if we know what's going to be in it exactly, but can you talk about the importance of that and what we might be seeing?
Yeah, for most people, I mean, this is the single economic statistic. If you ask me just what for most people, what economic statistic is most important, it's certainly the unemployment rate. And it rose a tiny bit, rose from 3.6 to 3.7 in June. I don't make anything of that because there's always some error in the measurement. My guess it'll stay roughly the same, 3.7. The other part of the story, well, two other parts of the story. One, we're looking at the number of jobs that are created. We had been creating over 200,000 jobs a month. Recently, that seems to have slowed somewhat. My guess is we're probably close to 100,000 jobs a month. That's not necessarily bad because we are seeing a tighter labor market, so there aren't that many people who still want to come in. I mean, I think there are plenty, but I mean, it's not as many as, say, 2 or 3 or 4 years ago, just recovering from the Great Recession. So my guess is around 100,000 this month, new jobs. And then the other part of the story, which, again, was what I was talking about earlier, wage growth. What's going on with wage growth? There was some evidence that wage growth was actually slowing. You typically expect, you being economists, typically expect that when you get a tight labor market, a 3.7, 3.6% unemployment rate, wage growth would actually be picking up. But it had been around 3.2, 3.3%. Most recent data had it around 2.9. I mean, that might not seem a big difference. It isn't. But the point is the direction changed. It was actually going down rather than going up.
Dean, is that because what we're seeing in terms of, we reported on with Professor Wolf yesterday, we talked about the airline worker strike and how corporations are squeezing their employees and, kind of shunting all of the profits up to the top. You would think that would start reflecting on a macro scale like this. Do you think that is a reflection?
Well, employers have been doing that for, probably forever. But I mean, certainly in recent years, unions have been weakened, and government protections, things like overtime rules, are certainly enforced much less stringently than they had been in prior years. So corporations have been doing that. So that's not something that they just said, hey, let's see if we could find a way to squeeze workers. I don't mean to minimize that. It's, of course, very important. I'm just saying they have been doing that. So what I would expect to see is that if the labor market remains tight, at least I'd hope to see, that we would start to see wage growth pick up again. So we'd get back over 3%, get to 3.5%, maybe even somewhat higher. But, we'll have a number in an hour, and we'll have a better sense of what things look like.
What should we be looking for in terms of misdirection from, say, the Times, which is already reporting on something that hasn't happened, the 8:30 a.m. release of the labor report, and the Post? They obviously are going to politicize this. I think Trump is going to, anything that's good, he's going to say, I did. I don't know. We're kind of... Yeah.
I always focus on the rate of wage growth, and, their reporting, particularly the Times reporting, has gotten much, much better over the years. I should say that because I've been following Times reporting closely for, more than a quarter century. And, at least on this narrow issue, the jobs numbers, they have some good reporters. I think they do try to do a good job. But I think the big thing people look at, wage growth, is that picking up, is that slowing down? One of the issues that I was surprised how little attention it got was that there was a rise in African American unemployment earlier this year. Now, it seemed in the last month, in June, it fell, but that was very worrisome. I mean, again, I was saying before, when you have a tight labor market, it tends to be those at the bottom, disproportionately African Americans tend to be beneficiaries of that. So it's very disturbing to see the rise in unemployment among African Americans earlier in the year. The numbers are erratic, so sometimes you have to scratch your head and go, did this really happen, or was that just noise in the data? But that's a very, very important number,
so
obviously,
basically,
for a lot of people.
We're seeing a tighter labor market, but yet a rise in unemployment in African Americans.
Yeah, well, it was African American men, to be more concrete, and that was very striking. So we want to see whether that, which way that goes this month. That got very little attention. Another part of the story, and this is something I find ironic that it hasn't got more attention. Manufacturing workers, I mean, it's a declining share of the labor market. Manufacturing is not everything, but the Trump administration has made that front and center. And one of the things that's been striking has been both. There's been a big slowdown in growth in manufacturing employment, but more importantly, wage growth in manufacturing has been extremely weak. So it's somewhat ironic that, Trump has touted our great manufacturing workers. I'm not knocking our manufacturing workers, but, our workers in retail stores are also great. And it's not that should be glorified. But in any case, wage growth in manufacturing has been very slow the last 2 or 3 years.
There's so much to discuss here in terms of the overlap between politics and the economy, but we're at the end of our segment. Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. And we look forward. I'm really glad you're going to be a regular to kind of. We're getting a general sense here from WBAI, from all the reading people do, and all of what's going on overall. But it's really wonderful to have you on to give us the day-to-day, like this is what these numbers mean, et cetera, explanation. I don't feel like when I walk away from reading a post from the Post, reading from or watching CNN or any of the reports on this, I just don't feel like I know anything more than I did when I started watching. So when I read you and when you come on, I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks. Unfortunately, I think too many economists think that it's their job to confuse people rather than explain the world. At least as best we can.
Yeah, well, that's a whole story about how if we just remain uneducated, then we can just be mad about what's happening. Then Trump can come in and say him or some other orange dictator can come in and say, I can save you. You should be mad. White people are great. And then that's it. But, now he's president. Hey, thanks, Dean Baker. We appreciate you coming on the program today. You can find Dean Baker online at, is it .org? Your Beat the Press? I love Beat the Press.
.net, CEPR.net.
CEPR.net. That is the Center for Economic and Policy Research. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
You're listening to WBAI 99.5 FM in New York City. The weather today is fabulous. It's a fabulous day. 76 degrees, going up to 85. Musical break, and we'll be back. .5 FM Waking Up Show. Happy to be here with you today. I'm Julianna Forlano. My far left-hand man is not here, but he will be back next Monday. I have missed him over the course of the last few days. King Downing. I had a dream last night that I had been mispronouncing his name. You ever have a weird anxiety dream that just keeps coming back? I woke up. I've been mispronouncing his name for the last 4 months. And I'm like, no. Everything is okay. Get the cat off your face and go back to sleep. That's what happened there. Okay, it is a beautiful day here in New York City. Enjoy it. It's going to be lovely for the rest of the weekend with maybe a little bit of rain on Saturday. We are in the middle of our fund drive here on WBAI. And as I told you, they don't usually say this. I try not to say it, but it's like we're doing so great. We have expanded the listenership. Things are going well here. We are getting on really important guests. We are making waves and splashes out there. We're the voice of the resistance, and yet we don't have the money to keep the lights on. I don't understand how this is happening, but I would hope that you would make your donation today. And we have a book And now we have the author on. I'm really excited to talk about this, which is our gift to you if you are able to pledge at the $50 level today. So our pledge line is 516-620-3602. You can go to give the number 2 WBAI.org in order to give. You can become a WBAI buddy in the name of our show or any show here on WBAI. But really, I hope you give because you really like the station and not because we're like the home shopping network for unusual products that you can't find anywhere else. Okay. Check this out. Now, what do you think? Here's my question. Is Donald Trump an impulsive, undisciplined crackpot? Did he accidentally luck into the presidency? The author of the book that we have here for you today, The Method to the Madness, says that nothing could be farther from the truth. Basically, this objective book, it's nonpartisan, let me say. It's an oral history. It has no anonymous sources. It basically shows that Trump has carefully planned his bid for presidency since he launched what everyone considered to be a joke candidacy in '99. Remember that? One of the authors, Aaron Short, is here with us today to talk about what he found in writing this book. Aaron, thanks for joining us.
Hi, good morning.
It's so good to have you on the show, and your book is just shocking. It changes minds here. I guess I have so many questions. What do you think, you've been reporting on Donald Trump for more than a decade. What do you think people most often get wrong about him? What are they overlooking?
They don't think that he was ever really interested in the presidency, and that's just not true. He's wanted to do this probably since 1980, but he didn't really get it together until 1999.
Why would he want this? Egomania?
I think it's a lot of the same drive that you see in other politicians at this level. It's a combination of narcissism and wanting to try to make the country a better place for your children. It's something that he said to his biographers. Now, how he went about it is where where everybody gets upset at him here. But it is that similar drive that you saw in Al Gore or the Bushes.
Yeah. So can you talk about the things that you found in the book that were surprising to you? In addition to that, because that is, we have a lot that is a particular general understanding that people have. In your book, there were a lot of those that you kind of blew out of the water from talking to people who know Trump personally.
Well, one of the big things that's been surprising is just how often and how cynical he's used race as a way to divide the public, and to.
I didn't notice people talking about that when
gain.
we were electing him. I didn't notice people talking about that other than him. People didn't really talk about his history as much as they should have.
Yeah, you saw it in The Apprentice too, where the Times was also sort of tinkering around here, where he was playing, blacks against whites, and
he tried to get Al Sharpton on. You reported.
Yeah, and he tried to get Al Sharpton on as well. I think he's really, he basically, if it would help him, he'll do it. If it would goose the ratings, despite any sort of. He tried to have Rosie O'Donnell on too. These are people that he, fought with publicly, but as long as they could help him in some way, that cynical attitude, then sure, why not?
He called Trump, or Trump called Al Sharpton, you report in your book, and said, come on the show. He personally tried to get him on, and Al said, I think there's nothing you'd like better than to say, Al Sharpton, you're fired on live TV, and I'm not going to give you that opportunity.
Yeah, and Al calls it like he sees it. He knew what Trump's deal was, basically when they got together. The Central Park Five really soured him on Trump's sort of viability. But there is this odd sort of frenemy relationship. They both have respected each other for coming up through the 80s and surviving the way that they have, and sort of building second careers in different ways.
You have a number of parts to this book. It's broken up. Part one is Reformed at a Crossroads. Trump test markets the Trump political brand. Can you talk about his relationship with Roger Stone and talk about how he came up with this idea of the America we deserve, et cetera?
I think Trump is, well, Roger focuses Trump. He's the brainchild of Trump's sort of political ambitions. You could probably credibly argue that without Roger, Trump doesn't become president. People, when they're running, they need somebody there to tell them, this is good, this is bad, that's stupid. And Roger would do that. Roger's not afraid to tell him when an idea is bad. That Trump doesn't always listen to him, but a lot of the time he does. And there are other people that have been like that around Trump, but not as long as Roger.
Well, you do have this part, settling on a political voice. That's part 3, and where he builds his political team and he's learning the power of social media. But, you have kind of blown out of the water some of the different things that we believe about his political team with Bannon and all of that. Can you give the listeners a little bit of a taste?
Sure. Sure. Excuse me. Steve Bannon and David Bossie were early advisors to Trump. Bannon was not a believer that Trump was going to be a great candidate, but he came around eventually once they met and talked for a while. Bossie was always kind of interested because basically these guys that were looking for someone who can embody the Tea Party values that were sweeping across, bubbling underneath the Republican Party. It's sort of like something similar could be happening with the Democratic Party right now with AOC and the rest of the squad and all the socialist voters combined with the populist voters around the country. So we could be seeing something there. I think it's still developing, of course.
Well, Steve Bannon said that Trump, straight from your book, Trump said we always criticize the political class as being the elites. They're not the elites. We're the elites. We have better cars and better things. Bannon says that Trump used to tell him. You can't keep calling them elites because people aspire to be elite. If you make them elites, make them better, they're always the best, and we can't be the best. And then Bannon says, no, that's not how it works. In populism, it's always anger at this contingent of elites keeping the people from fulfilling their destiny as the rule of the people. The underlying grievance is always the elites against them. They have to be called elite because they haven't gotten it through their own hard work and labor. Because the hard work and labor of the virtuous plebeians is what populists are. He said, no, because people want to be elite. How did Donald Trump become the populist hero when he knows himself to be elite? How did he make that turn?
I think he's always seen himself as outside of the New York elite.
Well, because nobody liked him, that's why.
Yeah,
I could see why you would feel that way.
Yeah, and he's from Queens. He grew up, in the outer boroughs. Right when he went to college, he would be working out in Coney Island with his father and renovating lower middle class homes. He wanted to be in the upper echelon of real estate in New York, but he was never accepted, really. Same in politics. He wanted to be in the not just the White House, right? But he wanted an executive role. He wanted to be thought of as a serious player, and he was never really accepted either.
So do you blame his presidency on the rich? If the wealthy had just accepted him with open arms, maybe he wouldn't have tried to climb over everyone and lord his orange power over, all of the land here?
It's complicated, isn't it?
It's kind of like when people say if Hitler's art teacher just said, "Good job, you got a future here," maybe we could have rearranged history a little bit.
I mean, some people did accept him. He's got plenty of friends in the upper circles here. Steve Schwartzman, right? Tom Brock. There's a lot of finance guys and real estate guys you just don't hear about because they know better than to publicly trump their Trump support. He did have friends here, the Lafrax, right?
The Lafrax.
But I think this was, for whatever reason, he felt that he was on the outside, and I think he tried to...
He's still saying he's on the outside. He's the president of the freaking United States, and he's still saying he's on the outside. This is just... really something. That's why I really like your book, because it
motivates him a lot. Yeah.
If you're into sort of the psychology of it, it's there. It's in there. You spoke to Sam Nunberg, Steve Bannon, David Bossie, Roger Stone. How'd you get all these people to talk to you?
Oh, well, I'd been reporting, at the New York Post for
Sure.
well, for 4 years
They
or so, and
started to
before
trust
that
him.
at City and State up in Albany. So I dealt with a lot of people in both parties. And that's what you do. You talk to everyone if you want to be a good reporter. So I'd been sort of developing relationships, going to different events, going to conservative party events. That's where I would see Donald Trump speak, and then talking to various aides. And it's just a matter of once people hear what the project is, they refer you to other people, and then you keep hounding them to talk to you. A couple came in like maybe a day before the book actually went to print. Just it's a lot more nerve-wracking than when a newspaper goes to print.
Yeah. So the title of the book, which we have here as a gift for our listening audience, is "The Method to the Madness: Donald Trump's Ascent as Told by Those Who Were Hired, Fired, Inspired, and Inaugurated." So this is like their words. If you look through the book, you have there's the collection. It's nice because you don't really draw the conclusions for people. You let them draw them themselves based on what these people have said. Literally, the words from Michael Caputo's mouth, the words from Roger Stone's mouth, the words from Joe Borelli's mouth. You let people draw their own conclusions based on the actual words of the people who worked with Trump. Can you talk about when you say, and we're at the end of our segment time, but can you say the method to the madness? That was the title. What is the method to the madness?
Well, that's always good questions. We wanted to try to explain sort of where the chaos that people observe in Trump's leadership is coming from, how he acts the way he does. And we found that there was some systematic organization behind it. And we didn't expect that at first. We did think this was someone who was driven about the presidency, but we didn't completely know, like, the patterns that he had and how he operates and the consequences for doing so.
Do you think he's... Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, and we liked having it in the format you said, this oral history. It reads a lot like a play, where you see what everyone's biases are. We give people the rope to hang themselves in some circumstances. But I think it helps to have a conversation with all of these disparate people that you wouldn't necessarily see anywhere else. We interviewed everyone individually, but if they're talking about the same topic, you want to put their quotes together so you can see what different perspectives are to give you a reminder that, people have very different views, even within the same ideology events were happening.
Would your takeaway be that he's closer to the bumbling idiot, or who's just kind of ruining our democracy with his racism, but he doesn't really know what he's doing? Or would your takeaway be there is a real method here and he is potentially an evil genius?
He's extremely impulsive, and you're seeing that with the tweets. And when he says, "I don't have a strategy," he's reacting from his gut. But that's part of the method.
His enormous gut.
That's his enormous gut, and it's part of his. It's part of his method. Like that's how he acts.
Maybe if we put some health food in his gut,
if
we put some health food in his gut, his reactions would be better. He only has McDonald's in there. So you put garbage in, you're going to get garbage reactions.
And foie gras sometimes.
Oh,
we're going to be writing about this too very soon, about his dining habits and how he eats and what that means.
Oh God, foie gras. What other tortured animals does he stuff down his own gullet? Hey,
maybe. Maybe.
Aaron, well, we'll see. We'll be on the lookout for that. Aaron, thank you so much for donating some copies of the book so that we can support our independent radio listener-sponsored station here. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And the name of the book, The Method to the Madness. Final thoughts before we have to move on?
We hope people enjoy it. We're journalists. Alan Salkin is my co-author, and I are journalists. We don't really have a point of view.
You're not allowed to have a
this.
Point of view, yes.
No, but we call where racism occurs. I think that's important. You have to have the historic record where this was going on through The Apprentice. We explain sort of the origins of the Central Park Five, where it lurches up again through his birther, his birther conspiracy. We don't let him off the hook, but we do explain what's happening and what people around him thought.
He has a great relationship with the blacks, apparently. Yes, that's what he said. Remember that quote? Oh, thank you so much for being on this program with us. I appreciate it. Aaron Short, I'm looking forward to finishing the book. I've only gotten through the first 3/4 of it, so, but I unfortunately already know how it ends. He wins. This is bad news. Hey, thank you so much for being on the program. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you giving us some copies of the book to give out as premiums.
We love BAI.
Great. Have a great day. Thanks so much. WBAI needs your financial support. We're in our pledge drive, 516-620-3602, 516-620-3602. We need you to call in and make the pledge. You know, I don't really like pitching like this from the need position, but looking at the numbers of what's coming in, and it's August and people are on vacation and it's hot and people are, but I just saw the jobs report, so I guess we all have jobs now. So please support your listener-supported station here. The Method to the Madness is the book that you will be able to get for a contribution this morning of $50 or more. $50 or more, The Method to the Madness. Now, I like giving you these books and stuff, but I don't want you to make the mistake that the reason you call in is just to get the book. The reason is, I hope, to support the radio station, to support your community resistance radio station that you rely on, that you are a part of. $50 will get you this book. It also helps you become a member of WBAI, a voting member. I believe $25 is the amount that you have to pledge in order to become a voting member. You become a member of the station. It's not just you giving money and you listen and that's it. So you can be as active as you want. You can run for the station board if you want, if you are a member here, a member listener. So WBAI pledge line is 516-620-3602, 516-620-3602. We have an increased listenership, and now we need our new listeners and our oldest listeners to please give for this round of our pledge drive. Our August drive is in effect. We hope to shorten it. It doesn't look like that's going to happen given what's been happening over the course of the past couple of weeks in terms of giving. So give now so we can do that. 516-620-3602. We need to keep the lights on, bring you back to your regular scheduled programming, and hopefully you will also enjoy the gifts that we're able to give you in thanks. The Method to the Madness is your gift for a pledge of $50 or more. 516-620-3602, or of course online, give the number to WBAI.org. I feel like I repeat that so many times that you should probably have it memorized, but I've been told, no, you must repeat it. Give the number to WBAI.org. If you're a texter, you can just text WBAI to 41444. I wish we could have gotten 44444. That would have made it easier, but we got 41444 as the texty thing, and it'll take you about 4 minutes either way. I know mornings are busy, but don't put it on your to-do list and then do it later. Just do it right now, please. We have one of our show hosts on the ground with Esther Avram with the 5 o'clock show on the ground. Esther, thanks for being on the program today.
Oh.
Did I blow your last name again? I keep blowing it, and then I have like a block because I'm afraid I'm going to blow it. And even when I spell it out phonetically on my page, Why? What is wrong with me? Could you please help me again?
Iverum.
Good
morning. Good
you
morning.
Just said
really
it and I still got it wrong.
Inspiring to hear you pitching, and it's been quite an experience to pitch on a different station, and I've been trying.
Well, we appreciate it.
We
love your show.
But,
no, I mean, we love your show, and as it turns out, not just to support you, not many of us are having a lot of success in an August pledge drive. So again, I'm trying to impress upon the listeners that we're pretty much hand to mouth. If we don't get it in our hand, we don't keep the lights on. So we are encouraging folks to give now. And so we can keep bringing you programs like On the Ground. What's coming up at 5 p.m. today?
Well, we're going to broadcast a show we did from Cuba.
Ooh.
And earlier this year we went to Cuba for the May Day festivities. This is the 60th anniversary of Cuba's revolution. And we were able to be there for the tremendous May Day experience. I never experienced anything like that. 1 million people in the streets.
Wow.
And so and
May Day, of course, is the workers' day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a workers' holiday. Yeah.
It's not really a holiday. It's like, hey, we're winning. stuff, and
Yeah.
we're a big, powerful force, and we're not going to let you take advantage of us kind of day, right?
Exactly. And so that's much of the show. There's a long address by a professor there, Rafael Hidalgo, who gives the Cuba perspective on the blockade, the sanctions, not only against Cuba, but also against Venezuela. And it's really fascinating and to listen to this man's analysis. So that is included in it. And I also found a university, I don't want to call her a professor, but more of an administrator who has, over the years, brought American students to transfer there to study, and how that program has totally, blown up right now because the students can't come, and how this whole blockade and increased restrictions on travel again has really just we were there before it really kicked in, but you could see where it was starting to just totally destroy any chance of just Cubans and Americans being able to continue to meet each other and know each other. So that
might be
members,
the best, you know what I mean? You just leave it untouched like people in Borneo in the rainforest. Just keep the U.S. out of there. It seems like a good idea. Well, not financially, obviously, but
yeah. So that's the show, and
well, that's going to be great. I'm looking forward to that. That's at 5 p.m. On the Ground is the name of the show, and it's one of the great shows that we bring you on WBAI. And it takes resources. People bring their heart and soul to the shows they produce, and Esther certainly does that. And so we need your support. 516-620-3602 is our pledge line.
Yes, thank you for having me to talk about the show. And I will remember all those tips I've learned listening to you to try and pitch, because I will be calling in live to pitch from D.C.
Oh, that's great. We really appreciate that, too.
Something a little different than,
Yeah. No, that's really terrific. I mean, I think WBAI is connecting with its sister stations. WBAI has done a lot of wonderful things since even just the last pledge drive. And it's important for us to tell the listeners what we've been doing in addition to bringing wonderful programs. So thanks so much.
Yeah, so Cold Pink Radio started this week.
Yeah, and we even that's amazing. We even have a Black Lives Matter New York City radio show that's happened since since the last pledge drive. So a lot of work is going on, and I hope people will call in to support that work. 516-620-3602. Don't forget to listen to On the Ground with Esther Iverum.
Esther Iverum.
Oh, I got it. Iverum. Yay! I'm going to go home and practice. Hey, thanks a lot, Esther. I appreciate it. That show is on at 5 p.m. This is Waking Up. Thank you for listening. We miss our King Downey. He'll be back with us on Monday if all goes well, and we'll be back with you. I hope you have a lovely weekend. Have a great day.
Hi, this is Iggy Pop, and you're listening to WBAI in New York.